Alright, so here's my teacher toolbox, and here's the technology tools that I chose to use. I'm a pretty big advocate of Google, so I picked Google Drive, Google Classroom, and Google Forms, along with BYOD and Flipped Classroom. So, social media technologies, collaborative environments include the Google apps that I chose. Google Drive, I use it for both my students and my colleagues. So with my students, I use it as a way to store all of their files. My students should be going on to Google Drive every night to check their answers for all of their homework. If they're absent, they can go print off any worksheets that we had, whether it be homework or notes. Calendars are there, the syllabus is there, anything that can help the classroom go paperless is there, and then that way they don't need to come in, they can just go to this Google Drive and they can access all the materials that we need for class. With my colleagues, I use Google Drive to store all our files. So I have a Math 1 folder for that class that I'm teaching. I have a Math 2 folder for that class that I'm teaching. And I use it as a way that we can make lessons together, worksheets together, homework notes, all those things. And then that way we don't have to keep emailing each other back and forth and figuring out where it's at. Also, it can be accessed anywhere as long as you can log into a Google account. So it's nice that as soon as I leave the school network, I don't have to worry about trying to log in. It's just on my computer, it's on Google Drive. Google Classroom I use mostly for my Math 2 class. I use it partially for storing videos. So it's a way for me to make a video of a lesson or a part that maybe we couldn't get to, or here's some instructions on calculator use that maybe we couldn't get to in class, or if you're not getting it. And then it's a way for me to post it on Google Classroom, and it keeps all the videos. So it's one place where all the videos are at. Every now and then I do use Google Classroom as some formative feedback from students, asking them to reflect on how they're doing. I can give them assignments, that type of thing, so it's nice for that. Google Forms I use a little bit as well. It's always nice to have a warm-up or to have an exit slip, but 50 minutes sometimes, or with our crazy schedules, we don't always actually have 50 minutes with our students. So it's nice to go through a lesson, and if we didn't have a chance to get an exit slip, or if I don't know that I actually got a good feel of how they did with the material, I can always send them a Google form and just tell them it's due by midnight that night, and it's one or two questions that they have to answer, and then that way I can still get my feedback on how I feel like they did for the day, and then I can drive my instruction the next day. So I found some of these sources for Google Drive. For readers, actually, if you go here, you can actually buy a book. It's called Google Drive for Dummies. So it's not a long read, but you can buy it through Amazon if you click there. And then I also found a video on just teacher training on how to set up Google Drive, how to manage folders, how to add things to your drive, star things, that type of thing. And then I also found a website that just gave some quick tips and just lists of things that they think that you should know about Google Drive that people find very useful. In Google Classroom, I found a couple of videos. So one of the videos is for teacher, like from the teacher perspective, what it looks like, how to navigate through it, and then the other video is what it looks like as a student and how they can navigate through it, what it looks like from their view, so we know when we send them out an assignment or send out a post, what it looks like and how they would use, what the user side would look like. And then I also found just a website, a list of things, 20 things to be specific with Google Classroom, and it just has an explanation for how to use it, what you can do with it, and all those possibilities. With Google Forms, I found a couple articles, all of which I found were very useful. So the first one is just 5 ways that you can save time. Basically, both of these articles talk about how you can navigate through Google Forms, and then how you can use Google Forms for what you already do, but how it can save you time to use Google Forms versus what you're doing. So meaning, like, it can store your results for you, it can sort your results for you, it puts all your results in one place instead of you having to grade or you having to look through, and it saves it all electronically for you. The book I thought was pretty interesting. It just goes more into depth than maybe the article would, so it'd be probably a pretty useful thing to read. And then switching over to digital strategies, I found BYOD and Flipped Classroom to be useful. For BYOD, I thought it'd be useful to talk about using cell phones. We have Chromebooks, so I want to talk about something different. I thought that it'd be useful if you use cell phones to use specific apps, Google Drive, Google Classroom, Google Forms, just because that's what I currently use. And those can all be accessed pretty easily. It doesn't take up much space, and there's a lot of things that you can do with them. I thought an app like QR Code would be a pretty useful app if you did allow cell phones and students to bring their own things, because it allows students to go straight to a URL without saying type this in, go to your email, click on the link, just a more direct route to where you want to go. And those can be posted around the school, it can be posted around the classroom, it can be posted on a worksheet. While you're working on your notes, you could put it on the worksheet and say, like, if you need extra help tonight, this is where you should go. Or you can put it on the homework, for a little extra tutoring help or an extra example, click this, it'll take you right there. Maybe a link to like a YouTube video or something would be really interesting. For the flipped classroom, I haven't used it. There's some teachers at my school that use the flipped classroom, but I do find it pretty useful when you are going over some things that are more computational, maybe more of a review day. It'd be nice to, instead of having to reteach the whole thing, say, okay, I want you to go home, I want you to watch this video. It's going to remind you of things that you should already remember, but it's been a while. And then that way, the next day, instead of having to go through and explain that stuff and wasting, 15, 20, 30 minutes of class, you can do a quick gloss over, were there any questions, and then say, okay, now here's a worksheet. I want you guys to get in pairs. I want you guys to get in groups, and now I want you to work. I'm going to be walking around the room. I can monitor and just go from there. And that way, the kids are actually practicing in front of you instead of going home and then something comes up and they don't know how to do it, they don't know how to start, or something busy in their day and they can't even get to it. So. For BYOD, I did find 44 is a lot, but I did find this article that talks about 44 ways to use smartphones in the classroom, and then specific apps that will drive that instruction and that collaboration and that interest. I found an article that talks about using cell phones in the classroom, how to manage it, why you should do it, and in respectful ways that you can get your kids to use it productively. For the flipped classroom, I did find an article and a video that both talk about why you should flip your classrooms, how it saves time, how it's useful for the students, and how it differentiates the instruction, and how it actually reaches all students. It reaches that student that struggles. It reaches that student that can stay along and wants to work, and then it reaches that student that gets it right away and is bored because they already know what you're trying to tell them. So I thought those were all pretty useful. The lesson plan that I came up with for the technology enhanced portion is talking about adding and subtracting polynomials. And I actually did this early in the year when I wanted to introduce watching videos in the classroom. I only use the watching videos when I'm not in class, I'm at a meeting, or I'm out sick or something like that. So I use this as a day as a pretty easy lesson to introduce how to, or what my expectations would be for these students watching videos if a sub ever had to come in. So what I did was I had the students log on to their Google Classroom account, and then I had them click on a video, and then from that video they watched it and they filled out their notes just as they would if they were listening to me give their instruction. The only difference was that there wasn't as many prompting questions. I tried to put prompting questions in there, but there wasn't a wait time for them to think and then for them to respond back to me. Instead, it was more, pause this, think about it for a second, maybe jot this idea down, something like that. And then they still had to write down all their definitions. They still had to go through the examples. They were asked to pause the video, try it, and then unpause the video, watch the video, see if then they can make sense of why I'm going through it that way. They can hear my audio, they can hear my explanation. So it should be a very similar lesson to what they would have had, just a little bit different delivery. And then after they were done with their notes, they could start their homework in class, and then was walking around helping. If I'm not there, obviously I can't do that, but then it's time for them to time given to them to start their homework in class. So something like this is, I find, super useful, because then it gives those students the ability to go back and look at an example. It gives them the ability to pause it, think about it, try it. It's put at their own pace. If they're thinking that they can do it a little bit better, then they can try the example, skip to the part where I give the answer. If they get the answer, they can go ahead, and if they didn't get it, they can listen to the explanation again and again. If they're not there at school that day, then they can go on to Google Classroom, they can watch it, and they really don't miss out. So I thought this was a pretty useful way to use not only our Chromebooks, but to just use a piece of technology in our classroom. And then here's the reference list. These are all of the sources that I found. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed.